All right, hello everybody. How are you doing on this rainy afternoon? At least I hear it's rainy in the UK. It's not for me because I'm in Spain. But it's perfect. It's perfect for an afternoon and an evening of celebration. So we've all got you online. You know, thanks to COVID, there is a little bit of lockdown going on. We can't socialise in the same way that we used to, but we do want to celebrate our volunteers and all the hard work that they do. So we've got the perfect opportunity today. And thank you for joining us. And I just want to say a little bit of background about what we're doing here today, because it's the Lockdown Love celebrations, and we are giving a little bit of love back to the amazing volunteers who help out so much with Cycling UK. Our mission is to get 1 million more people cycling because we love it. Everybody loves it, and there's so many benefits to all involved with your riding and then the impact on the rest of society. So we can't thank our volunteers enough for the hard work that they put in helping us achieve that mission and for sharing your love with other people for cycling. So thank you for that. We do have a big bike quiz going on later, and in the middle of that we have the all-important award ceremony, so do make sure you stick around for that. But throughout the day we have loads of webinars going on, and we've got a brilliant one today. I'm really excited about this afternoon's one because it's going to be a little bit gritty. I'm gonna, it's going to be one that we're going to be pushing opinions on and really hearing some fantastic stories, I'm sure. So today's question is, do we really need inclusive cycling groups? I mean, anyone can just get on a bike and ride, right? Why do we need groups that are maybe aimed at women or at people with different abilities and disabilities? Do we need to have groups for LGBT plus people? Do we need to have groups from people from different countries and different backgrounds? It's a big question, and it does kind of open up a bit of a can of worms, but we have the exact people on the front line, to be honest, who are going to be helping answer these questions and share some of their experiences. And I'm sure by the end of today, we'll all have had our minds opened and have gone down a little bit of a rabbit hole but in a really positive way, with some great opinions. So we're going to introduce some of our guests onto the screen right now. We're going to be welcoming a bike mechanic and mountain bike ride leader first up. She's also a mum to a beautiful girl with cognitive and physical disabilities. Vicky Balfour, if you want to switch your screen on for us, that'd be brilliant. Thank you for joining us today. Hello, how are you doing?
Hi, yeah, good, thank you. Good, it's great. It's very exciting to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to see you with such a massive smile on your face.
That's one thing I'm always known for, I think. It's my smile. I can't help it. It's whether it's sheer terror or pure enjoyment, the smile is there.
And maybe a little bit of both at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't worry, I'm not scary. I'm not that scary. A little bit. It's a big question today. You know, it is a big one. I'm going to be pushing you, but definitely want to hear about your opinion. But why don't you just give us a bit of a background about, especially about the cycling club that you started with your daughter, and basically why you're joining here on today's panel.
Yeah, cool. So yes, I've cycled all my life. I started as a youngster cycling, going to school and so on. So bikes have always been complete freedom and independence for me. And in fact, one of the saddest things when we had a daughter with disabilities, one of the things as a parent of a child with disabilities, you grieve periodically through their childhood. And one of the things that I found really sad at first was that we couldn't do family cycle rides. And then actually lockdown was when we really managed. She's now coming up for 15, and we've got a pull along trike that we got second hand. And I did it up and put it on the back of the bike and just sort of thought we'd give it a go. And it's amazing. It's just transformed our lives actually in a few months. And it's great. She's grown in confidence, she's grown in skill. And so whereas I've always, or in the last 4 years, I've mountain biked a lot with my son, and that's really brought us together and helped us get through teenage years. I think actually this is going to do the same. And so then with a friend called Caroline, we've got 2 kids, Thomas and Cece. So between us, so we've started the T&C Bike Club, and we've got access to another disabled charity locally who have a complete collection of bikes for a huge range of disabilities. And we're now going to go out and we'll roll that out to local families and hopefully get a lot more people cycling.
That's amazing. And I know with those sorts of initiatives, they have different bikes for different types of disabilities, you know, depending on the needs and all that sort of thing. Just to give us a bit of context about you and your specific challenges, are you able to tell us a little bit more about your daughter and what her abilities are and aren't in comparison with traditional cycling?
Yeah, of course. So Cece's got a completely unique genetic mutation. And so it comes with a range of physical and cognitive disabilities. For a start, she doesn't see in 3D like the rest of us. She sees in 2D, which means that her depth perception is completely out, and she finds that hard. She doesn't have the same control over her muscles and her joints and so on that we do, or that mainstream people do. And so for her, it's difficult. So using the pull along meant that her body could learn how to pedal, and then we're now transferring her to a trike where now that her brain's learnt to do that, she can then add in the steering herself. But she's a complete speed freak. She loves going fast. So she recently on a cycle ride, she and I clocked 35 kilometers an hour going downhill. And she loved it. She was screaming her head off, and then of course we have to power up the other side. And what really makes me excited is I get things from her, sort of saying things like, "Mummy, I feel so confident, and I'm a champion cyclist." And it's like, yes, you are. We're all champion cyclists. You don't have to go into a race. It's brilliant. So yeah, so it is. So for her, it's a combination of, and she's also autistic. So that brings in a whole other set of parameters about the way she views the world. But so hopefully that gives a bit of a flavour.
Excellent. Yeah, no, it really does. Thank you so much. And we've got such a range of guests on. I don't know if you've met everybody yet. I think you did just before we came on, and everyone's got such different backgrounds. So it really does open up this topic well, because whilst, you know, we've still got a fair way to go, hence having these discussions in maybe UK society being even more liberal. It's pretty liberal when you compare it to growing up in a farm in Uganda, where often it's actually taboo for women to be allowed to ride a bike at all, full stop. Yeah, here she is, our next guest, who's setting up a group to teach African women how to cycle. And, you know, I mean, that's a huge leap to go from. Jolly Oluka, thank you so much for joining us today. So how did you get started cycling yourself?
Hi everyone. Myself. So what really happened is I got a job as a development officer to train. One of the things that we were going to do, that is way back in 2013, was to train women as a pilot project, to train women to learn how to ride a bike. We had been doing a number of activities like fitness activities, swimming, aerobics, and Zumba. And we wanted to try out cycling for women. So, and I felt that if I'm to tell people to learn how to ride a bike, I need to learn how to ride a bike myself. And I also felt it is important that actually I do this for myself. I remember saying, this is something I want to do for me. So I joined the group that we had signed up to learn how to ride a bike. And the main thing that we made important was to get female trainers, because the group of women that we were going to train at the time were women who either, just like myself, you are not supposed to ride a bike as a girl, or you're not supposed to ride a bike because of your cultural background. So maybe you are a Muslim woman and you're not supposed to be on a bike at all. It's not allowed. So we decided if we are going to train women who have this diverse backgrounds, we have to make sure that they feel safe, They feel it's another woman who is training them. They feel if they cannot pedal or they're not sitting in the right place, the woman is not going to maybe laugh or, to do any certain things, or the men, that their husbands who are going to allow them, so it's like you have to be allowed to do it, should feel comfortable. It's another woman training their wives. So that's how I started, really. Someone told me you need to have a scooter before you can ride a bike, and I thought, really, do I need a scooter if I can ride a bike? So it was a challenge at the time, but I'm so glad I did it, really, because right now I enjoy cycling. When I'm in a car, I feel strange. I feel strange when I'm seated in a car. It is amazing. And so for that reason, because I can cycle, it's easier for me to tell other women who are like me that, yeah, join, we will train you. And yes, and they're like, really, can you train me? And once they do it, it is amazing. The group that we are training right now is, should I say, wild? It is so exciting. They are excited. They tell everybody what they have been able to achieve. And I think, yeah, it is good. It's good to learn how to ride a bike. It's fulfilling.
I don't think anyone is going to disagree with you on that point in this panel. You're definitely preaching to the converted, because we're all on that. But for what you're doing with other women and introducing that to them is spot on. So well done. I'm just going to introduce our next guest on. So being truly international here, we have somebody, a Mancunian, who's living in London. Can you believe it? And so you've loved cycling for 40 years or so, not wanting to open the door on how old you might possibly be, but I've got this in me.
I look younger than I am, I promise.
But also, you've mainly been doing it as a bit of a lone wolf, and it's only in the last 3 years that you decided to join Cycle Out, which is an LBGT plus group. So after all those years, why did you suddenly decide to take a plunge to join a group?
Yeah, thanks, Anna, and hello everyone. Congratulations on the event today. I'm really enjoying it, actually. For me, I started cycling on my own, really. I think I got my first bike when I was about 5. I got my first racer when I was about 10, and just did it with mates, around the area. But for me, it was then commuting and just going on weekend rides with one or maybe even on my own. But for me, there is a barrier. I felt it, in the LGBT community. There is what would it feel like to join a mainstream club? Would I get asked, awkward questions? Would I fit in? So that's probably what held me back, and that lasted for far too long, until I was working with a charity and they had a list of LGBT sports clubs. So I tried. There was a hiking one which I joined first. I did it. It was great, but the pace wasn't really for me. I mean, the pace of cycling I just adore. Then I joined a squash club. And then about a month later realized why I hate squash. So then I just it's just too intense. It's just too hard for me. And what I was really looking, and it was very competitive as well. I didn't realize how competitive it was going to be. What I wanted, was a combination of a social club, a sports club, and something where I could make friends and do stuff outside of cycling as well as in cycling. So then there was this, the charity had a list, so I looked down the list and there was Cycle Out. And I noticed actually that they had, every 2 weeks, they had a trip in Richmond Park. So it wasn't a ride, it was more like a social event. So I decided, to pluck up the courage and go along. So I remember cycling into the park and then stopping at the gates and thinking, no, I think I'll go home, but somewhere I got the courage anyway. I went along and everyone was really, really friendly. And we did, it was more like a chin wag and, tea and cake rather than cycling. We did a couple of laps of the park. And then it was just a get to know you session. From there, that was about 3.5 years ago, I think. And from there, I've really, made some great friends, and I've built up a lot of self-confidence actually in cycling. And I'm leading quite a lot of rides now. So we've got about 200 active members in the club. Some, it's mainly Greater London and the home counties, but we've been putting on, I don't know, maybe we put on 3 or 4 rides a week, and we get maybe 12 people on each of the rides. So for me, about self-confidence, it was, joining the club and then working up my confidence to actually lead some rides. That's been great for me, and it's been good in other aspects of my life too. And I love it. We do rides locally, we do international rides. Every year we've been going to Mallorca. Last year we went to Albania and did a week in Albania, which was amazing. And it's really inclusive. I think in lockdown as well, we've had 30 or 40 new members, which has just been amazing.
It's definitely a bit of a cycling boom, and like we say, truly international. Got Albania thrown into the pot there as well now. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And actually, harping from near my neck of the woods, our next guest is a Swale CTC leader. So this is a group that attracts many riders from many different backgrounds. Joanne Moore, hello.
Hello from soggy Kent to sunny Spain. How are you all?
Great. Yeah, really enjoying the sunshine. Sorry, so mean. But anyway, so what does many different backgrounds, what does that mean in terms of your cycling club? How does this describe your members?
It's really changed actually. 2012, just the year before I joined, I think there were 35 members, predominantly men. I think 6/7 were men. And now in 2020, we've got about 190 members, majority of whom are quite regular riders in one form or another. And now 1/4 of the riders are women. And, Swale's not a very well-off area. It's we have higher than average unemployment, social housing, and alcohol abuse, teenage pregnancies. But cycling's that great leveller. So, our club, it's a family. It's a club that embraces everyone. You can ride up that hill, but it's the same hill whether or not you're a GP or you're unemployed. I joined the club a little bit like you, Jolly. You said cycling was something for me. So I was working hard. I was looking after a house. I was looking after family, and I just needed a bit of me time. And Mark, I know your experiences about being initially put off about joining a club, and it took me a little bit of courage to go along, because at that time it was mainly men that were riding. But I gave it a go, and the welcome was one of just complete acceptance. Do whatever you can do. It doesn't matter. You won't be left behind. And wherever you are in your riding, let's see how we can bring you along. So I think possibly the club has grown in part because, as someone who's a bit short and a bit chubby and a bit middle-aged, people think, well, if she can do it, anyone can do it. And it kind of reduces that, we are not a racing club, we are a touring club, with the emphasis, like Mark said, on sociability. It's open to everyone, and if there are people with disabilities that we need to change the ride, we can do that. We can factor in appropriate loose stops if that's what's needed. I think the only thing that we want is everyone that comes along to accept everyone else and not have issues about the quality of the bike that you ride. I came from a family where mum and dad didn't have a car, so if you wanted to get anywhere, you would walk, you'd get your bike out, or you get the bus. So our club is non-judgmental, and I think during COVID, when we haven't had that kind of little support group network that cycling in a group can provide, what we've been doing is just kind of staying in touch, just checking in with people that they're okay if they're having to self-isolate, which is the kind of thing you do with friends. And that is the summary of the group is it's a group of very different people with one purpose, which is to just enjoy life on 2 or 3 wheels or 4 wheels.
Yeah, absolutely. And did it just evolve like that? Because I think everyone else, your group is probably the most conventional when it comes to cycling clubs. Everyone else here is sort of targeting a specific group or section of society, whereas yours is open. But it does seem to have done well, particularly well, anecdotally anyway, compared to maybe some other cycling clubs. Is that just the way it evolved? Was there any reason that it sort of had that ethos of making sure that it was particularly inclusive? And do you think, in your experience, or again, having spoken to other club members, that other conventional cycling clubs maybe don't do it as well?
What I was interested in is, what are we not doing particularly well? Because I think it's always easy for people to sit back and go, wow, look at us, haven't we grown? Aren't we clever? And what I did do before the panel discussion was that I messaged all of our members and I just said, if you read this and you don't ride with us regularly, why is that? Is there something that makes you feel a bit uncomfortable? What can we do better? If you are newer to the group, have you felt welcomed? Have you felt uncomfortable? And again, you know, message me. You don't have to say that in public. And it's the atmosphere that no one is any better than anyone else. We've got exceptionally powerful riders and we've got brand new riders. But as the club grows, that means that we can provide more of what people want and need. So if you need a 5-mile ride, we'll give you a 5-mile ride. We've got a couple of members who, for various reasons, haven't been able to ride for a little while and they're just getting their confidence back up again. That's fine. I'll go out with you and we'll find a cafe that's just a couple of miles away, have a break and then come back again. And to the other extreme, where there are people that want to push themselves, we've had like a 150-mile ride around the coast of Kent. So people come back because they don't feel under pressure, they feel encouraged. They see that women are just as able to fix puncture or mend a chain as men. We have men who don't tut because they are naturally stronger than women, and sometimes I'm chugging up a hill 10 minutes after the others have got to the top. It's just about embracing what everyone brings.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there any of you others here? I think Vicky, you might have done anyway, because you're saying how you've ridden a lot, well, just loads of biking is a big part of your life. Joined a mainstream club or gone out on a sort of cycling club ride that isn't specifically aimed at a particular group. And in anyone's experience, has it attracted, you know, you've turned up and been like, oh, this seems to have attracted a certain type of person that maybe I don't identify with or do identify with?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Looking at sort of my own experience so I've always cycled, but it was about 4 years ago that I got into mountain biking. And I grew up sailing. So for me, I'm used to being in a very male environment. And actually, I found that was something I was almost looking for in a funny way, because it was my comfort zone. But I know that there are a lot of women-only groups now that have started, and I actually now I find myself a bit of each group. I'm quite happy to ride in different groups, but they're definitely, I think if you've got the confidence to be able to find the group that suits your needs, I think that's the fab thing. And I think that's where a lot of it is down to confidence and being able to go and identify. And that's why I think we do need lots of different groups. And that's why I think it is important to have sort of specific groups for different audiences, so that people are able to, because we can't just lump everyone in together. And it might be that somebody builds their confidence in one group and then goes on to join another one. I mean, certainly I think from sort of the special needs perspective, actually one of the big barriers for families with children with disabilities and adults with disabilities is that you don't know what kind of bike is actually going to suit your needs. And it's very expensive. Anything with special needs related to it is massively expensive. And so for us, we were lucky that we were able to get a second-hand pull-along trike. But if I hadn't had the skills as a mechanic to be able to do it up, it probably would have just sort of languished and wouldn't have got used. And now that we've only used it for sort of 3 or 4 months, and already my madam of a daughter is refusing to go on it because she wants to be independent and go on her own bike. Yeah, exactly.
Understandable.
Yeah, totally. What I love is that she's now bullying her dad to join the cycling gang, so and give up on his tennis. But no, so I think the big barrier for disabilities is cost, basically. And if you can take away that barrier, and especially special needs families are busy fighting on so many levels, if you can give them an easy way to just come in, try a range of bikes, find what works, and then give them a nice easy place, like Joanne says, going sort of either, just for us, it's just along the river in Canterbury, so it's flat, it's pedestrianised. If we get far enough, there's a pub at the other end where you can stop, or you can just take a picnic and sit on the way. But it's just cutting out all those things that are going to be, or like Joanne says, things that are stopping you, the barriers, getting rid of the barriers, basically.
Yeah, you're really starting to touch on the main question of today's panel there, which is, what is no, it's perfect. It's perfect. Why do we need these groups? And that's, that really is case in point. And you've got some very practical issues to overcome there. Cost, the practicality of the disability of actually riding a bike, the independence of it. Those are real practical barriers. Jolly, you experience, at least in Uganda, it's maybe less physical barriers and more social, more sort of taboo barriers. So for a woman on a bike in Uganda, what would it have been seen or thought about by your neighbours, your friends, your family members? What would people say about it?
I think for me, growing up, it wasn't womanly. If that word exists, it wasn't a woman thing. It wasn't allowed for a woman to be on a bike in that part of the country where I grew up in. And so if you were seen on a bike, you were maybe you are unruly, you're spoiled, you're not a good girl. And so it wasn't encouraged at all. So you grow up knowing that this is not something that you're supposed to do. And also because it's not, society doesn't encourage it in that part of the world. I mean, there are different areas. So for my part where I come from, women couldn't ride a bike. But the part where my husband comes from, women are the one did ride bikes. So there were differences in that as well. So for my part, if you are seen on a bike, you're not a good girl. Your parents haven't raised you properly. You're not being brought up in the right way. And so parents wouldn't, they wouldn't buy your bike, and yet your brother would be bought a bike. Your brother would be allowed to be on a bike. So there are certain things, so there are certain limitations. And also, there are also barriers to do with, so if your family was using bikes more, that means they don't have the means to have a car, to own a car. So the bikes were, somehow put towards those who don't have enough money, are the ones who have bikes. And those who have enough money, they do have cars. And then you come here and you find that a huge difference between what you grew up seeing and what you are actually seeing here. And you're like, why not? Why should I not ride a bike? So yeah, so for me, I think it is important, if you have come with that kind of background, with that kind of baggage in your head, to be in a place, in a group that is supportive, that will encourage you, that will say, yes, we can do it, yes, we are in it together. And if you fail the first week, the second week, the group still tells you it is okay, you will be able to do it. Because if you don't have that support system in place, it's easy to say, you know what, after all, I was never encouraged when I was young to ride a bike, so why should I do it now? So it is important that is there to start off, and then you reach a point when you can say, yes, I can do it on my own. personally, it was scary. When I started riding, I was scared of falling down. I was scared of hurting myself, because that's how we grew up. You grew up knowing that if you ride a bike as a girl, you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to maybe get an injury, get a scar on yourself that is never going to move away. So you don't want that. And so you have to come out of that barrier, you know, to get that out of your head that, okay, so if I get a scar, so what? You know, I'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing, cool. And Mark, your barriers, I guess, to cycling, I think a question that's been posed to me is that there's no reason, and you've proved this, case in point, for somebody who identifies as LGBT to not pick up a bike and just go cycling. It's just a bike, it doesn't have a label on it. Why can't anybody just go and ride? And you yourself, you did ride for a very long time, and you kind of prove that. But do you think there's subtleties within cycling, especially maybe as a sport, that kind of creates a bit of a barrier that makes it less inclusive to white, straight, middle-class male?
Well, it seems to be dominated by that category of person, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I know. For me, this is not our club is not really just an LGBT club. It's a cycling club first, and then we welcome LGBT people, and we put that on our website. And we welcome people with all abilities. And it doesn't matter even if you haven't got a bike, you can come to our club because we've got some spare bikes. And we always try to be as helpful as possible. So for me, the issue was always, I was a bit nervous about joining a mainstream club because, if you grow up gay, then you always are worried in the back of your mind that people are going to start asking awkward questions, and that is just a barrier. I mean, it just stops you joining in. And what I want to do is make sure that everybody gets a chance to enjoy this fantastic sport, which is cycling. That's the main objective. And if that is being stopped because there isn't a specific LGBT club there, then we should have one. I mean, our club has actually been going 25 years, believe it or not. I remember I was talking to Peter, who started it, and he was telling me that in those days they used to actually write postcards to people, telling them when and where the ride is going to start and where it's going to finish. We've come on a long way, right? So we've got websites and Facebook and Meetup and all these digital channels now, and it's really opening it up. So, like as I said, we've had loads of new members in the last few months, and a lot of them are telling me that they wish they'd have known about this, because they, like me, have been cycling around on their own for a long time. Yeah, I mean, I have no reason to believe that there's any prejudice in any club. It's not about that, I don't think, and I think most clubs don't have that. Maybe there are one or two people you might find, but I've no experience of it. But having said that, it's still important that we have an LGBT plus club, and we're not the only one actually. There's one up in Manchester. I think that Richard, who runs that, is online as well today. And it's important. It really is. I'm really passionate about it, and it really does bring down those barriers and make it really easy for someone to actually enjoy the sport. For us as well in the LGBT community, we call it the scene or the non-scene. Where do you meet other LGBT people, right? Bars and clubs and things like that. If you don't drink, like I don't drink, then you need clubs that are in a healthy environment, and exercising and doing something that you really enjoy. It just makes your life richer, and that's what I found.
Yeah, and we're all talking about this topic as very inclusive. We're talking about inclusivity here. But again, when I was discussing that I was going to be taking part in this panel, somebody said to me, so what, all these people have created groups that force people into groups, and they said, so you think it's good that they're dividing people? So first up, I very clearly answered that one. I did not hold back on my answer. Today is about you guys and your experiences and what you're doing with your different backgrounds. So give me some ammunition here. Tell me why. Oh, how would you answer that question? Is it good that we're just dividing people into groups? Who would like to go first?
Yeah, I don't think we are, by the way. I don't think we're dividing. I think getting people into cycling is actually joining everybody together. When we're out on a ride, actually, we sometimes have all our cycle out kit on. It's pink, by the way, and we're cycling around. We'll meet loads of other groups of cyclists, and we'll sit in the same cafes. We do mix. I mean, it's not like we're completely separate. I think the love of cycling is what's coming through, and that's what it is. I mean, we do specific LGBT events, like we did Pride for the last 4 or 5 years, but we also try our best to integrate and work with organisations like yours.
Yeah, and so would say you do other events, so like Pride, but would you also then in theory do things like Ride London or a sporty event?
Yeah, we do that every year. We do a ride called Sam's Ride, which is for the Samaritans, which is another 100-miler down in I think it's in Canterbury. Yeah, we do national sportives. We represent our club.
Yeah,
excellent. And everyone's been nodding on, so I really want to hear all of your thoughts. Yeah, Jolly, over to you.
I think for me, it's just to agree with what Mark has said. We are not dividing people. We are not creating exclusive groups, but we are creating groups that are going to bring everybody together, into cycling. An example, myself, when I'm cycling, I rarely see anybody who looks like me. Honestly, I don't see anybody who looks like me. But if I am there and if I support others who look like me to be on the road, then many people who look like me will actually come on the road and start cycling. So it is important that that space is there for us so we can support each other, because we do have different backgrounds, different things that have hindered us from cycling, from taking cycling as a means of travel. So we need to be able to break those barriers fast by creating that space, by enabling us to ride a bike, by enabling us to be able to come in a group where you're not going to be looked at with, okay, like you're the only one who looks like me in that space. And the atmosphere is actually different when you go to certain groups. Not that I've been to those groups really, but I've been to places where I am the only one who looks like me. And I can feel that, I can feel it. I can feel that, how did you come here? So if I am there, it is easy for another person to join. It is easy for other groups who are like myself, other people who are like myself to come in. Not because we want to stop them from going to mainstream groups, but we want to support and enable. So then once they have that confidence to be like, I can join this cycling group, I can join this cycle ride, I can join this cycle club. Yes, then it is yes and yes. The other thing is not all of us speak English. And so we have people who do not speak the language. And it has to take another person who understands that actually this person does not speak English. Their English is very limited. I'm going to give them enough time and enough space for them to reach that level where they are confident to be able to make a mistake, to say a word and maybe it's not understood, and maybe say it again and again, and they feel safe. So there is the safety. There is the feeling unsafe around others. So I don't know how to explain it, but it's that comfort and that confidence, building that support system, and
I think you've
enabling.
explained it really well.
Yeah,
I think you have.
Yeah, you've definitely explained it very well. Don't worry about that. And Vicky, do you agree?
Yeah, I do. I think confidence for me with because I teach mechanics to women and so on. And so again, it's sort of people saying, well, why is it a small group? And everything is about confidence. And I see all of these groups are just a way of giving people that initial confidence, and then they may go on, they'll probably bring other people in as well.
Yeah.
They'll and pass on that confidence, which is lovely. I mean, from a special needs side, it's well, I mean, Celia is extremely vocal, and she tells everyone how pleased she is to be on a bike. So there's the seafronts of Kent are in no doubt about how good disabled cycling is. She's also the helmet police, and she does go past and touch people who aren't wearing them. But no, it's. I think the thing I love is that when you're in a special needs, I always say special needs families are the club you'd never ask to join, but once you're in it, you really stick together. And cycling gives us something that isn't, you're not just moaning about the or not just having to sort of commiserate about the problems you're having or the battle you're having to face or the medical needs or so on. It's actually something really positive and great that you're doing together as complete families. So for us, actually, so for every one disabled rider, we've probably got 3 or 4 other carers, members of the family. Actually, the disabled people are only a quarter of the club. And it's enabling whole families to do things together, which is, it's phenomenal. It's a really, well, people laugh because I'm nearly in tears half the time when I'm cycling with Cece and the family, because I'm just so happy to do it. It's and to do something that makes us all feel normal. It's, yeah, it is really good. But confidence, everything is about confidence. Yeah.
And Joanne, I feel like your club is kind of reached, I know you're saying that there's always more that you can do, but you've kind of like reached the utopia of inclusivity in cycling.
Can I quote you on that one, Anna?
Is that the goal, that we want to make all these groups end up obsolete because, you know, everything ends up, everyone's able just to go cycling together, like you say, 5-mile rides to 150-mile rides, everyone from different backgrounds, all in the same club? Or do we want to keep these groups going forever and ever because they do create these spaces?
Well, you know, Jolly, you were saying that people feel good when they feel not judged and just safe to be whoever they are, and you haven't got to think about what you say and how you say it. And that is something that people really need. They need to be able to do whatever they want to. And if from then they can get the confidence to realise that they're just a human, they're just a human who is as welcome in our cycling family as every other human, then that's great. You know, you can dip in, you can go back to be with people that make you feel really comfortable. You know how it is when you can just relax, let your guard down. Well, ideally with CTC Swale, you don't need to have your guard up in the first place. But you know, if we're talking about getting your confidence and skills up, that's magnificent. And why, I don't quite understand why it makes people feel uncomfortable. You know, it's not a divisive thing. It's about unifying a person and their bike so that they can enjoy the world. And that is the big thing about cycling. It's about enjoyment and relaxation and mental health relief and physical benefits. So let's just keep doing what we do really well.
Yeah, because it should be accessible to everyone, because like you say, it's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Had so a few questions in from the public, and if anyone else wants to ask some questions, fire away. First question is from Ellie. What would be your top 3 tips for us as we expand our local charity into a full inclusive cycling hub? So I'm going to direct that one at Joanne, if that's okay.
Do we know what type of charity it is, Anna?
Ellie, are you able to get back to us as to what type of charity it is, and then put that in the chat, and then we'll come back to this question. So right now we'll go on to another question as we wait for Ellie to get back to us about the charity. This one's for Vicky. Do you find it difficult to find safe spaces near home to encourage your daughter to ride on the trike?
No, actually, I don't, and it's something I am going to start publishing. I've found it. I think if you can understand OS maps and so on, it's great. Our local council is very good. Canterbury City Council is fantastic at providing maps of cycling areas. Living on the seafront or living near the sea, I've got a lot of flat seafront areas where you can cycle very easily. And they're great because they also have sort of other attractions like coffee shops and ice cream stops and things like that. So no, the answer is I think it's about having that confidence, that little bit of knowledge, and that's again where the club comes in, because we've taken away that thinking process. We've taken away sort of another barrier that would stop you getting out. Yeah.
Great. Good. And no, Ellie's left the conversation, so we don't know about the charity. So I guess if we go back to that question, Joanne, but just as a general idea, maybe 3 tips on how to make a cycling club particularly inclusive.
Taster days, so that people can come and just get the feel of it. We have very popular pub rides as well.
Yeah.
Mark, you were saying you kind of felt a bit, you don't drink, but you don't need to drink to go to a pub. You can just go, well, ideally, when we get rid of COVID, we can just go and socialise and relax. Vicky, we are cake fiends. We have beginners rides, which we will find out, are you comfortable with 5 miles, with 10 miles? We will ride by your side and no one will get left behind. So to give people the knowledge that whatever it is that they bring to cycling, we're with you and we can take you that little bit further. Advertising is good, whichever platform you use, because there are people out there that want to ride and don't know how to start, and they will Google stuff and then we appear. We do have a club kit, and Swale's not a well-off area, and you can have a couple of different conversations about that. Plus, club kit can be expensive, but if people see you in your livery going around the streets, they will know that there are people out there like me. I'm not, a top athlete, but I can go on my bike, and they might see the name of the club and then find us that way. Cool. Smile and wave. What's wrong with smiling and waving? I don't actually. People talk about, oh, cyclists this, that, and the other. I actually get a lot of waves, hello, and thank yous from drivers. I don't really get a flick of the finger and a curse.
That's ideal, really, isn't it? Guys, we're running out of time, but I do want to quickly ask this question because it's quite funny, but if we can try and answer it quite quickly. It's for Mark and Joanne, if you can both answer this. Do you find that there are less women than men in the group who are able to tackle the dreaded punctures, and do men in the group take over, or encourage, there is a mansplaining going on, or do they encourage women to give the repair a go? So,
is this from a CTC Swale member? Can we find out? Don't touch my bike. Also take my puncture. Yeah, I mean, it's each their own. So I will have what we're setting up is bike spa days. So if women feel comfortable about coming to my house and having cake with me, I will show you how to strip your bike down, to maintain it, how to do a puncture. And guys in the club are lovely, but sometimes it kind of disempowers you if they pounce on your bike. But they are also lovely when you say, no, it's fine, thank you, I can do that. How about you, Mark? What do you think?
I think there are some people in our club that think they are experts at punctures, and as soon as you get one, they almost knock you off the bike and start to fix it. But I think for us, everybody stops when anyone gets a puncture, and it's like a little break. Everyone can have a chat. We take photographs of people bending over, trying to, there's always like a collective of people hanging over. I think it's this. I think it's that. So yeah, we treat it as a bit of fun, and everybody waits, and we can all go on. But I think it is important that people have a go at trying to fix their own puncture, so that if it happens when they're on their own, they can do it.
If they want to, yeah, but and if they don't feel confident, that's okay. We can help you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Cool. I like that one. Funny question. Okay, well, that's it. We've gone a little bit over, so we're starting the next session shortly. So anyone who's enjoyed this, please do head over to the next webinar. And don't forget, later on this evening, we've got the big bite quiz, which all the fun stuff is kicking off. Mind you, this has been particularly fun, actually. And the volunteer awards celebration. So we're out of here. See you later.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining. Bye.
Bye.
Bye now.